Hi, I'm Jake, and today I'll be sharing how my experience with Adeptus Custodes has gone so far, and also tell you about how it's felt piloting them in 9th edition. If you're new to the channel, what we do here is cover competitive 40k strategy content, as well as produce fun and informative battle reports for you to enjoy. If this kind of content interests you and you haven't done so yet, we'd love for you to stay up to date by staying subscribed, which greatly helps the growth of the channel. Additionally, if you're interested, of course, we have several different ways you can interact with us, as well as ways to support the channel even further, such as picking up your own set of Black Rabbit gaming gear or using any of our discount affiliate links. All of this information can be found in the video description below. If you've kept up with any sort of 40k news at all, surely you've heard how incredibly powerful this new meta bully army's been since its 9th edition codex release. It's definitely all well warranted considering everything they're capable of doing on the tabletop, in addition to how innately powerful their datasheets are making them to be a terrifying matchup indeed. Before we start though, is it Custodes or is it Custodes? I don't really know, but to me, Pilates isn't Pilates, and Astartes isn't Astartes. So that's what I'm going to roll with. At the time of filming this video, which is, for me, right now of course, I've clocked a total of 14 games played with my Custodes. 20 if I'm including training games I've given out using my Golden Boys, but they will never count towards my personal competitive data, since how I like to conduct coaching games is trying to get my opponent to break me with all the moves and takebacks. So out of the 14 matches, 3 games were from an RTT, which we actually did a really cool vlog on actually. 5 local league games where we respectfully get matched up within our own skill brackets, without list locks, meaning opponents can list tailor if desired. And the rest of my games came from just stress testing the army against, well, basically anybody who wanted to take a crack at them. The big question, of course, is how many of these 14 games have I lost? 1. Yes, only 1, making for a 93% personal win rate, which is absolutely absurd to say the least. And my 1 loss was against Custodes. I went second. In all fairness, do give me some credit in having a solid understanding of how 40k works though, and I am about 100 games in for 9th edition so far, which hopefully counts for something. I've gone up against triple Storm Surge Tau twice now, Orcs, Grey Knights, Harlequins, Space Wolves, and finally, I've fought Crusher Stampede more times than I care to admit. Of all those games, I'd say Crusher Stampede and Tau were definitely the hardest wins to pull out, given all of their high toughness units, as well as, well, pretty much everything those armies just do really well. Interesting personal fact, if you're curious, I have a personal rule of clocking 20 games total with any new army I start before moving on to a different one. Why? Because that's my number to become familiar with how an army functions and be comfortable enough to pick them back up at any given time. In this case, however, I can say with confidence that I figured out Custodes after about my 5th game. What I absolutely love about the army so far has been the tactical element of choosing your katas, figuring out when to shuffle your katas, and more specifically, the esteemed amalgam stratagem available to Emperor's Chosen Shield Hosts, which opens up access to selecting a unit in your command phase and swap it out, or swap your Shield Host trait out for a different Shield Host trait. Custodes most definitely live and die by the pilot's decisions throughout each and every game. You really do have to stay on your toes and read the battlefield, especially when going second, since you won't have your katas until it's your turn. Let's try out something new here and fire off with some Q&As. Are Custodes an easy mode army that anyone can win with all the time? No! While their data sheets and fundamental codex rules are very powerful indeed, a player really needs to have an understanding of every phase of the game and generally be good at 40k to know when and how to apply buffs just during the match. What do you think is the best shield host? Emperor's Chosen, without a doubt. 4 up against mortal wounds, MSU unit rerolls, and a strat to change a unit's shield host? Yes, please. Should I feel bad about wanting to play Custodes? Absolutely not. Don't let anyone tell you how to hobby is what I always say. What's your favorite stratagem? Earning of a name. I love it so much, but it doesn't come up as often as I'd like. Wah. Hey Jake, are bikes really that OP? Yes, they're extremely points efficient for what they do, being 5-wound models which have a 2-up save, 4-up invul, 14-inch fly move, toughness characteristic of 6, and are able to be equipped with salvo launchers, which are strength 8, -4 AP, D3 plus 3 damage, as well as having far above average melee output, making them one of the best units available in this codex. Do note, they also have the core keyword, meaning they benefit from character auras as well as Vexillus auras, the banner guys. Yeah, they're just really strong to say the least. What units do you never leave home without? Trajan, duh. Vexillus Magnifica, which gives core and characters a -1 to hit aura. Virtus Praetors, the bikes. Achilles, Achilles Dreadnoughts, and Sagittarium. Do you think Custodes need a nerf? Yes, but within reason. So what is it that makes Custodes just really good? Simply put, they perform extremely well in every phase of the game, every phase, if you know what you're doing though. The only phase that they won't dominate is the psychic phase, but that's okay, because everything Custodes can do, they just do extremely well. Not to mention that all infantry is OBSEC, yes, characters included, and all models count as 1 more when determining objective control. Last I checked, 40k is a game of scoring. I will say though, during the early stages of testing out this army, I really did feel bad after some of my games. Mainly against codexes that are inherently underpowered, but in general, just having the tools to deal with anything thrown at me. It got to the point where I was even unsure if I wanted to continue my run with them until I started running into some tougher matchups, which were far from easy mode. I can honestly say though, out of my 14 games so far, I very well could have lost at least 9 of them had I made 1 or 2 wrong moves. So what does that tell you? It means that they absolutely can be defeated despite the tournament stats not too long ago, implying that they rarely lose. And allow me to chime in on that subject matter briefly. Yes, I'm well aware that the recent tournament win rates came in close to 80% for Custodes, but I want to emphasize on the fact that there have been a ton of talented and extremely experienced players piloting them at these events, and the same can be said for all the recent new hotness that comes out, which ultimately leaves its predecessors with a lower win rate as those very same players switch to a different army. Harlequins is a great example. My point is though, I encourage everyone not to get too hung up on the tournament stats and simply form your own opinions based on what's happening within your local meta. And always remember, the pilot means far more than the army itself. One of my favorite aspects of the Codex so far has been how flexible this army can really be. I do think that the book is future-proofed, assuming they don't get nerfed to all hell, due to how much shield host selection affects army builds overall. There are several different play styles which can be achieved despite the standout efficiency of Emperor's Chosen. But even as the meta changes, I'm pretty confident that Custodes will have an answer to keep up with all those changes. That being said, we're expecting some balance changes to come out next week, which are all well warranted. Some units are just blatantly undercosted for what they're able to do, but my guess is they won't see any more than a 10% point increase across the board. Anything more than that, and I'm fairly confident the army just won't feel very lore accurate. At the end of the day, they're the Emperor's janitors. They do everything well. If I had to guess, we should expect at least a 5% points hike across the board, which will include, or should include, Misericordia's not being a free loadout for anyone. I'm not entirely convinced that increasing stratagem costs will do that much balance-wise, so in the event that the 2 most used strats go up by 1 CP, transhuman and shutting off rerolls, it's not really going to be the end of the world. I actually don't really see that happening, but I could be wrong about it. Simply put, as long as the upcoming balance changes are within reason, Custodes will be just fine. While my win record with Custodes has admittedly been absurd so far, during my run with Grey Knights, I actually clocked far more 100-point wins compared to my Golden Boys. So that should say something. The point being, the Grey Knights nerf was hardly felt, and I believe they would still be performing really well if it wasn't for the introduction of the Tau and Custodes codexes, which is in fact a direct counter to them specifically, as well as many other armies right now. Either way, the codex itself was really well written, to the point where I believe players will always be able to adapt accordingly. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experience with Custodes so far, and why it is that you love or just simply hate them. Well, that's it for today, folks. If you found this video to be helpful or informative by any measure and would like to see more content like this, please do stay subscribed, share the video with a friend, and join in on the conversation below or in our private Discord channel where I have the link posted below. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.